Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Discovering Dawson's Creek here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Morgan Hasn't Seen TV is
Yes.
back. Dawson's Creek is back. We enjoy it. We want to crack on with Dawson's Creek. It's becoming too engrossing to not leave,
Oh, I
to
like
leave it
that.
so long between episodes. The
Yes. I like that you're
the
engrossed.
infestation is there, the engrossment is there. None of those words make any sense, but you know what I mean. And it's very,
Yes.
very true. I think today we have a couple of really good episodes. Definitely
Yes.
two of the better, more impactful episodes, I think, that we've had in season 1 of Dawson's Creek before the next episode, which will of course be the season 1 finale. Finally,
Yes.
we will have made it there. But we have a couple of fun episodes today, Janine. It's nice to be back with Dawson's Creek for a bit of scares going into spooky season as well. That felt very appropriate,
Fitting.
I think.
Yes, definitely fitting to be on the scare episode. I think a pretty good episode in terms of, I love when shows do a fun kind of like Halloween episode or a scary episode. So perfect for that, especially because the show is written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream. So there is a lot of that sensibility going into this episode. Also, it was featured in Scream 5. We see Tara watching it in the hospital, and then just kind of the meta layers of that, with it being they featured the scene that she was watching with Scott Foley as he was a ghost face. So, just kind of all the connections branching from this episode of Dawson's Creek. So a lot of fun little nods to Kevin's other work in this episode for sure.
Well, I think we'll start off right away. Janine, get the binder out and give us the little synopsis of episode 11, The Scare of Dawson's Creek.
So yes, this synopsis is cut off in the binder.
Oh dear.
Bad printers from 1998. So I will have to read it off of the internets.
Off of the internet. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Why has the binder failed us? Look at the
Yes,
binder.
it has. It has. Literally, I printed this on a printer in 1998. That's how old this baby is. So, yes, but I do have a synopsis here for you. In in honor of Friday the 13th, both the film and the date, Dawson plays practical jokes against everyone while he plans a seance for the gang to look up ghosts until they are all spooked by reports of a serial killer heading towards Capeside. Meanwhile, Jen is asked out by a friendly jock named Cliff, in which the date ends up at Dawson's house, while Dawson, Joey Pacey bring along a slightly crazed young woman named Ursula, who is running away from her psychotic boyfriend.
Yes, okay, well, let's get straight into it then. Episode 11, The Scare. You said it's always good when shows can do their little horror specials, little Halloween specials, and it very, very much fits into that vein. Yes, obviously, because it's Kevin Williamson, there's an awful lot of similarity to Scream going on, knowing similarity to Scream, playing on all that. Dawson and Joey are even watching I Know What You Did Last
Summer, written by Kevin Williamson. Yeah, at the beginning of the episode, Dawson, plays little scares on Joey.
Yeah,
and all that kind
there's
of
a big
thing.
Scream poster, big poster of Scream up in Dawson's room.
Yeah.
It's very, very much playing into all that. And you know what? It's a really effective horror episode as well. Like, there's a genuine tension to a lot of what's going on, not just in the Dawson, as usual, being extra and over elaborate, trying to play all these little supposedly fun games that may turn out to be slightly less fun than he intended, given the seriousness of one particular situation that's going on in this episode. But it's it's got such a great kind of fun tone to it while being genuinely a horror episode, genuinely
Yeah.
playing into the tropes of that genre, the
Mhm.
the the tension of that genre. But isn't this what Kevin Williamson always does tend to do? Able to
Yeah,
bring a certain humor, a certain awareness, a certain
kind of
fun
meta
to actual
energy.
scares.
Yes, and it also is still not avoiding continuing our storyline and still throwing in
No.
elements that deal with the current kind of dynamic struggles between Jen and Dawson and the kind of jealousy with Cliff and that whole situation, kind of the conversation of potential feelings for Joey and
Yeah.
Joey, having to face feelings for Dawson and all of that. So we have kind of Pacey on her kind of bugging her about those feelings. People kind of calling attention to Dawson. Hey, it's clear that you like this brunette, and he's very much trying not to like think of her that way. So we're still peppering in kind of the through line plot of the Dawson, Joey, Jen kind of dynamic, while also kind of telling this fun story around it.
We are, yeah, and to be honest, I felt like this was really the first time or the first real indicator that he might actually be thinking about Joey in a more serious way, or in a way that he's never been able to tell himself before.
Yes, yes,
This is the first episode that I think actively deals with that and actively make him thinks that, because other not just other people in terms of Pacey and Jen to a degree
yeah.
is telling him that, but this complete stranger who turns up in
Yeah,
this
picks
movie.
up on something between him and Joey. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, I think it does make him aware, and, last episode of Discovering Dawson's Creek, we were talking about him moping, looking through the window to Savage
Savage
Garden,
Garden, yeah.
about Jen, and in this, he is very much his emotional state towards Jen isn't really at the forefront of his mind anymore. I don't think he seems able to. He obviously invites Jen and Cliff, who Jen again immediately goes on a date with other
Again,
people.
yeah.
Again, somewhat odd that, but fair enough. Go and do what you want. You're wearing a very nice turtleneck in this episode, Michelle Williams. But and Cliff's lovely, to be fair to Cliff. In
But
in in this, he's a bit
also
sweet. He's a bit like stupid.
yeah,
He's a
he's a
bit
little
of
bit
a,
of
a bit of an idiot.
a little bit of a himbo, but also just kinda weird, like, why would you ask your girlfriend's ex for help or even take
Why
her
would you
to
do
his
that?
house? That just seems like a weird choice. I
But
don't
it's
know.
maybe because he is an idiot and he is just trying to do what he thinks she would like, or be the kind of person
That
that
she would
he
like.
thinks Jen would
He's trying a
like.
little too hard. So I like that they do kind of come to that realization by the end that he's like, realizes that, yeah, me trying to be unique I is me trying to be like somebody else, and, like, he
Yeah.
understands how that wouldn't work. I also do like that there is some acknowledgement from Jen as to, like, her really not knowing why she broke up with Dawson. Um and
Yeah.
her kind of taking responsibility for her not really giving them a chance. So I like that there's an acknowledgement of those things in these episodes for sure as well, because they could feel like through lines that they just kind of ignore or things that they dropped and then like they never really think about it again. But I like that there's this consistency to kind of understand what these characters are doing because yeah we really didn't get a clear understanding of why she really broke up with him and then
No,
she's
it
just
never
so
was.
quick to date other people.
It was just this whim almost that, yes, was very emotional at the time and very, a scene full of crying, but it did feel like a bit reasonless. And
Yeah,
we
and I
still feel that, I think, but now I just think our romantic minds with what's going on in Dawson's Creek is somewhere else now. I don't. It's not focused on Dawson and Jen at the moment
It's
anymore,
kind
is it?
yes, and I think it's also the turning point for Jen, who is starting to kind of realize that maybe she does want Dawson back, but she's a little bit too late because now
Well,
thoughts
it
his
always
thoughts
happens,
have
isn't it? I
kind
mean,
of been now
we
kind of set on Joey and
we could
really kind of
see this
thinking
coming
about that.
from
Of course.
84 miles away.
Yes.
Um, but even as pleasantly simple as Cliff is, I love how it's a bit of a red flag for Jen as well that Grams really likes Cliff. I think that's great
Yeah.
because, oh my God, does Grams actually
Oh,
behave pleasantly for once?
yeah, she catches them kissing on the porch, and she's like, "Oh, no, take your time." Like, if it was Dawson, she'd be, like, looking out the window, freaking out, so,
But
yeah.
it's because Cliff is a good Christian boy, and
Yes,
he
she sees him at church, and he's very nice and all kinds of things, so,
mm,
yes.
and he's he I think Grams likes the look of Cliff as well, not just doesn't like the look of Dawson. They're basically the same type of looking person. They're both flowy haired, reasonably tall, clean shaven white
Yeah,
people.
exactly, so I don't know what this fear of Dawson is. I think it's this judgment of, "Oh, that girl's always coming in and out of his window, kinda inappropriate," kind of thing.
But girls might be coming in and out of Cliff's window. We don't know. It's not
Yes.
Cliff's Creek, is it? So
Yes.
we
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean, Grams will get a little bit of a much more open development as the series goes on, so,
Okay,
um, just look forward to
interesting,
Grams loosening up a little bit and her and Jen's relationship really becoming stronger, so,
interesting.
that will be coming down the line, but, yeah, I mean, it's a really fun episode generally, um we do get the news report of this serial killer who's been
Yes.
in the area killing teenage girls. He sends them notes and things and calls them
Yeah.
before he kills them. So this is kind of a running presence throughout the episode, which does kind of circle back to in a really fun way by the end of the episode. Um, so leading up to the seance, Jen starts getting these creepy phone calls, and there's a really
Very
kind of
Scream like.
yeah, there's a very Scream sequence where somebody calls her and there's talking, very creepy things to her and kind of making her feel like someone's in the house, to where she's running around her house with a knife and panicking, and she's seeing, all these scary things. So, yeah, I mean, we get some really fun, creepy sequences. How did you feel about, those kinds of scenes? Did they
Yeah, I
seem
mean,
silly or did they play like really kind of fun horror
no, they
movie?
didn't seem silly in the slightest. Williamson is able to do those scenes. Obviously, it's why that
Yeah.
sequence is in this episode because he can write creepy phone call scenes
Yes.
really, really well. Obviously, so it does work, and it does work for me.
Yeah.
It's genuinely tense. You don't actually know who's on the other end of the phone call. You think for the vast majority of the episode that it's Dawson because he's
Because,
spending the
yeah, we've
entire
seen an
episode,
episode messing with people. Yeah.
yeah, messing with people, trying to scare people, create all these traps in his own house. I mean, how does he find the time to set up all these things for one little moment that may or may not happen? Is a bit ridiculous, but he manages somehow to do it. I mean, where are his parents at this point? They're out of town, sure, so he's able to
Yes,
what
maybe
just
they're at some kind of retreat
create.
trying to fix their marriage. I don't know if they threw some line like that in there
Well,
somewhere.
that's convenient how they're not there for the
Friday
night
the 13th.
because
Yeah.
I don't think they'd want him weaseling around the house, putting fake plastic axes around
Well, I
and
think they I think they know their son well enough that, they're used to his nonsense like that. But,
you shouldn't be
another
used to his
kind of
nonsense. Get rid of his nonsense.
no, they love his nonsense. But, another kind of thing with him playing all these pranks is Jen wonders why he's not playing any tricks on her. So
She
she's
does.
kind of hoping that they or thinking that they have been able to bridge that gap and at least be friends. And so the fact that he's not really treating her equal like with the other friends, he's tricking Pacey, he's tricking Joey, but he's not, playing any tricks or having fun with her. So she kind of gets her feelings hurt by that and feels like, well, you don't really see me as a friend because you're not, playing these fun little games with me too or including me. So I like that, this Friday the 13th element is playing again, once again, playing into um the relationship dynamics, and we're not
Yeah.
like putting that on pause to have a scary episode. It's still part of the episode.
Oh, it's very much a big, Dawson and Jen episode, really, as our main two focuses. I think that's what we seem to tend to get a
Yeah.
lot. I know last episode of this double date was a bit of both. We got, the Joey Pacey
Yeah.
weird stuff going on
Yeah.
and the Dawson Jen stuff, but I think the vast majority of these episodes have been focused on two of the four primarily,
Yeah.
and maybe the other two kind of are just there for that
All by the
episode before
wayside.
they
Yeah.
come in again.
Yeah.
And obviously, a lot of the time that has been Dawson and Jen in this first season,
Yeah.
and it is in this scare episode. But yeah, the main focus is the fact that it's just a bit of fun horror, switch the tone up for a little bit,
Yeah.
um, which does work. They Pacey steals his brother's car or something like that, so they
Yeah, he
go and
steals his dad's car, so he's able to kind of,
or his
like,
dad's
hotwire it
car.
without the keys, and so he takes them to, like, the liquor store to get some snacks. So they go in the
Yeah,
snacks and leave Joey in the car, and this man comes up to the window, and he seems like a nice looking man, and he asks her, "Hey, I'm lost. I'm new around here. Can you give me some directions? What's your name?" And, like,
yeah.
just kinda being a little creepy. She tries to tell him where this hotel is, and he's like, "Oh, well, do you live around here?" And then here comes out Dawson, like, "Excuse me, do you need help with something?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I'm great." And then he leaves.
And Joey's
So
on edge for the entire episode, I'd like to point out
yes.
as well. Like, she is the most scared person
Yes, which
on the
we set up
planet.
in the beginning when they're watching I Know What You Did Last
Yeah,
Summer, she's kind of jumping and being scared at a lot of stuff. But even when this guy's talking to her and Dawson's like, "Why are you talking to strangers? Like, don't you know that could be, the lady killer guy?" So she's like, "Oh,
yeah,
no, you're paranoid." He's just a nice guy asking for directions. And then, he drops the statistics about, white males
yes.
in their 30s are usually serial killers. So yeah, just a kind of creepy moment there.
Not saying you yourself. I know you're supposed to be a white male who's 16, Dawson, but you look like a white male in your
Yeah, yeah, in your
late
30s.
20s, so
Yes.
you
You
could
could
be
be
a
included in
serial
that.
killer.
Yes. But also while they're in the store, they see this woman kinda arguing with her boyfriend really loud and,
Oh, yeah.
um yeah, and so the woman kinda walks away from the man and she, offers to score them some alcohol. So they take her up on the offer. She gets them a bottle of wine. Her name's Ursula. And as they're kind of getting back in the car, she gets in a big fight with her boyfriend. And then she asks to kind of go with them so she could get away from him.
I mean, this
And
man is violently insane as well, I'd like to point out.
yes. And, Pacey on his older woman kick is like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
yes.
come with us." So she comes with them. The boyfriend's banging on the car and they have to kind of drive away in a haste. So now they have this crazy woman at the seance with them. And then when Cliff picks up Jen for their date, she's like, "Oh, maybe I should get a sweater. It might be cold." He's like, "Oh, no, we're not going too far. We're going to Dawson's seance." And she's like, "What?"
That is the
Yeah.
worst date idea possible, Cliff.
Yes. So, huge surprise to Jen that Cliff's big surprise idea for their date was to take her to her ex-boyfriend's house. So, very awkward
Literally an awful
indeed.
idea.
Yes. I was also gonna ask you, how did you feel about the film class discussion they were having?
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they throw this in this particular episode? You gotta give a little bit of love to the likes of John Carpenter, I suppose. in
Yes,
this. Oh,
and
look
making
look at what.
references to Hitchcock, um,
Yeah.
and then he ends the class saying, "Oh, well, this was a fun, like, Friday the 13th discussion, but we'll get back to David Lee next week."
I like that bit. I like
Yeah.
that bit. We can get back to I dread to think which David Lean movie they're watching.
Yeah,
Definitely Lawrence of Arabia, knowing
probably.
Dawson's Creek's film class. Won't be won't be one of the earlies, will it? Won't be one of the
Probably
earlier
not,
ones. Won't be one of the
probably
quiet
not.
ones. Won't be Brief
No,
Encounter.
no, it'll be
Um,
one of the
be
very
one of the
long.
lavish ones.
Yeah.
But no, I like that. Why not have that in there? Let's have a
Yes.
look at, the framing of Halloween. Or everybody's always in
And
shot
there's
with
always something
something
in the
else,
frame, whether it be a tree branch or something. Yeah,
just to put
yeah,
you off, just to distract you, just to make you
yeah.
aware that other things might be
Things are
happening in
in
the
the space
frame.
with you. Yeah,
And we
yeah.
know what Halloween's like for throwing Michael Myers into random background areas, don't we?
Oh,
So
yes.
it's very good at doing that with the little sound bite. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Um, yes, a nice film class scene, although I do think I
Yes.
would vomit profusely in that class, given
Especially if
that.
Dawson just, like, calling out answers like, "Well,
Yeah,
actually."
and the thing is, I've been in a film class. I took film for 2 years,
Is it anything
and
like that?
I don't think I remember it being like that, but it might have been at the time. And I just think now I couldn't possibly sit in something like that and have some self-righteous
Insufferable, yeah.
moron next to me going, "Well, I know. Well, have you seen
Well,
this movie called?" And it's like the most obvious movie ever, and it would be somebody saying, "Well, I don't know if you've heard of this old direct like David Lean for somebody." He'd be like the kind of person who would ask you, "I'm not quite sure you've heard of David Lean." Well, what are you talking about? You're not quite sure I've heard. Yeah, why am I in here if I haven't heard of him? What do you think? What do you take me for?
yeah,
Dawson, who just watches Spielberg movies, and I know what you did last summer. He watches movies by Spielberg and his own creator of his fictional world, Kevin
yeah,
Williamson.
pretty
It's the
much.
only movies he watches.
Yes, but I feel like there is somebody out there who knows us, who probably sees us like we see
I
Dawson.
know there is. I know there is. I know there is, and I'm
We
aware
have
of that.
we have those sensibilities to be that obnoxious. Well,
I, j- but I don't think I don't ever say, I make good point to never ever say, um, I don't know if you've heard of this movie. It's called, and it might be the most obvious movie for
yes.
somebody. I don't think we ever say that.
No. No.
We're very much like when we actively enjoy discovering older movies, even when they are somewhat larger name older movies, and we always say first time watch for us, very interesting,
Yes,
and that
yes. We're not
kind of
trying to
stuff.
put on any facade like we know everything about classic films or have seen
We know
every
we know
classic film.
little compared to a lot,
Yes. I mean, a
little.
lot of movies that we watch on the Classic Films podcast are new movies to us that we've never seen before. So,
Yeah,
yes. So I
it's
just
why we
wanted to
do it.
bring up the yes, I wanted to bring up the film classes. They were talking about some interesting things, as us as movie people. So, yes. But back to the episode itself. We get to the séance and obviously, things falling out of closets and scaring people,
Yes.
and then we get to the actual seance where there's not a lot of seances. It ends up just kind of being them
There's
telling
not.
scary stories. I feel so bad for Cliff because he tells his scary story and everyone's like, "That's not scary, that's just gross." And then he just feels all dumb, because he tells a
I
story
mean,
about a woman who leaves her baby in the car, and she leaves the door open so she can hear him crying while she goes to pick blueberries, and then when she comes back, the baby's silent, and she sees a rattlesnake sticking out of the baby's mouth and pulls the rattlesnake out, and it's eaten all the baby's organs, which
yeah, it was
Kevin
really
Williamson
horrible.
yes, which Kevin Williamson wrote a COVID horror film called Sick, and somebody in that movie told this story. So he's just,
Oh, for God's sake.
the layers keep coming. But,
You
yeah,
could say it's the layers, or is it Kevin Williamson being smart and
or just being
paying
lazy.
homage to doing things he's previously done? Or is
Or
it
is he
just
just
him
being
being
lazy?
lazy and doing things he's already
No, he's a
done?
genius. He's a genius. He's a genius.
As she clutches the Dawson's Creek
Yes,
binder, he's a genius. He's
he's
a
a
genius.
genius.
Okay, yes, fair enough. No,
Um,
I do like him, obviously,
yes,
but Ursula brings
a
an
very
interesting,
interesting
wacky
story.
dynamic.
Yeah, so she tells a story about, oh, this woman meets a bunch of kids who are having a seance. And, they don't know. They brought her home and she's like a crazy lady who keeps a knife in her purse and just kills everybody
Yeah,
on a whim. And like basically kind of describing herself. And so they're all just like, uh, they don't know what to do.
yeah,
So they seemingly brought this crazy lady home with them. And so then all the lights go out, the phones go out, so that just kind of adds
yeah,
to more of the scares. So then they all kind of split up to kind of figure out what's going on. Dawson is gonna go check out the fuse box, and Ursula doesn't want to be left alone. And after she tells the story, no one wants to go with her, but she's like, "I'm going with you, Dawson." So he's like, okay." So while he's trying to fix the fuse box, she starts telling him, she's like, "Oh, I've seen, I can read that, you're here with one of your exes and it's probably
yeah.
really weird, but the vibes are totally there. You've been scaring her all night." And he's like, "What? No. The blonde girl, Jen, she's my ex and I haven't scared her at all." And she's like, "No way. Like you have more of a vibe with the brunette. Like what's going on there? Your problem is you're probably just dating the wrong girl because the vibe is
This
definitely
is
there
what
between you."
we've been
Yeah.
saying the whole
Yes. So
time.
she's planting the seeds there for him as Pacey is kind of haranguing Joey about like, "You
Oh,
like him.
big
Like, what is your
time.
problem? Like, just, do something about it already," kind of
Like,
thing. And she's just blowing him off like,
even after
"No."
last episode, that was all a bit like Pacey and Joey getting a bit closey
Yeah.
close. Um, we have him in this episode going, "Come off it now, just sort it out."
Yeah.
Dawson's there, Dawson's there. No, I can't do it. It's
Yeah.
annoying at this point.
She's very much self-deprecating, thinks he'll never see her that way, thinks, "No, he's into Jen and I'm nothing like
Yeah,
her. So,
which is where
that
the
will never
next
be me."
episode comes into play as well. Very
Yes.
good.
Yes, very good, dynamic there with the 3 of them. But, yeah, so we're just kind of peppering in these scenes of, Jen really kind of feeling upset that she can't at least have a friendship relationship with Dawson, and still kind of trying to understand why she even broke up with him in the first place, and why she was kinda so quick to even see other people, and realize that she's really not ready to see other people because she kind of maybe still wants Dawson. And
Yeah,
Joey having to come to terms with these feelings and maybe think about telling Dawson, and Dawson realizing that there probably is something there with Joey, but he just hasn't allowed himself to see it. So all of these
yeah.
things are happening amongst all the kind of fun and games.
I
So,
mean, romantically, as far as the episode goes, that's really kind of where we leave everybody at.
yes, yes.
But
Um,
story-wise, as far as the episode goes, we get a little bit of a punch left.
yes. Well, after the fuse box situation, like Dawson kind of admits that he did set them to go off at a certain time.
Yeah.
And they come back upstairs and nobody's around. He opens the closet door and a bloody Joey comes tumbling out, and we get a really good scream from Dawson. And
Mm.
Killer kind of comes out, and they've all successfully scared Dawson, who's been tricking them all night long. And he tries to play it off like that was stupid. That wasn't scary. like he wasn't like just screaming his head off.
Absolutely
Um
terrified, yeah.
yeah, so it was fun to see them kinda get back at him for all the little tricks he was playing on them all day.
Well, they're
But
all
even then,
very proud of themselves at this point as
oh,
well, which I really do
yes.
like.
Yes, and he said, like, "None of the tricks I played were as extreme as a dead Joey." And Jen is like, "Whatever, like, you were calling me and sending me those creepy notes, and, that wasn't just lighthearted fun." He's like, Jen, I do not know what you're talking about. I did not do that." Like, I did not send you any letters. I did not, do any of those things. And then he kind of storms off upstairs. And then
Mm,
Jen follows him up there and they actually have this real conversation. And then that's when she kind of admits that she doesn't really realize like why she ended things with him. And,
yeah.
they even get close to like almost kissing. And then they realize that maybe we shouldn't do this.
Mm.
So there is kind of these layers of feelings still lingering between the two of them, but they just don't know really how to navigate it.
And don't you just get the feeling this is gonna be perpetually there all the time, and it's gonna be an annoying
Yeah.
girl, I don't know who to go for. Annoyance.
Oh, yes. So this is a teen show.
It
So
is.
we are going to be dancing around these kinds of combinations of people for a few seasons.
For a few seasons. A few
I
seasons
mean,
I'd like to just
we
repeat.
will pepper in some new characters, but
Yeah.
we
As
will
you
see
say,
we will see some interesting iterations of characters. You know, it'll be fun. So, yeah, but as of right now, Jen and Dawson in this weird place. Jen's just like, "Can we just please be friends?" And, but they almost kissed, so there is that kind of lingering, like, what could happen? But also Joey and Dawson really starting to think about their feelings for each other, even if they're not saying
yeah.
anything. So that's kind of where we end the episode. And then the fun little cap on the episode is, oh, well, then we get somebody at the house. Somebody,
Yes.
well, Pacey trying to flirt with Ursula on the porch as she's an older woman, of course, throwing the line out there. I've been with older women before because
Yeah.
it's the old teacher situation.
Questionable.
Um, and
Criminal.
then here
Actual
comes
criminal.
running up Ursula's crazy boyfriend, busting through the door. And I love that Ursula's like, "Pacey's my man now. Pacey, get him, get him." Pacey's like, "Oh, don't say that." And so they run inside, and the guy's like trying to break in. So they have to lock all of the doors, and they hear him going up the
Yeah.
ladder. And it's a whole kind of scary. So we get kind of our last big scare for the evening, only for him to kind of bust in and he's like beating up Pacey. And then here comes Joey beating up with a frying pan. And
Yeah.
just very much toxic couple. Ursula's like, "Get off of him. I love him." Like, now she wants to be with him and she's all in with her
Mm.
crazy boyfriend. And she goes off with him and is like, "These kids are crazy. Let's get
Yeah,
out of here."
why don't we just shoo these two insane
Yes, and
people
he's
to the
broken
wayside?
windows and things. She's like, "Oh, sorry for the damage. I work at this bowling alley, so if you come by, I'll give you a discount on your shoes." And like,
Yeah.
that's the end of that. And I love Pacey leaving at the end of the night, going to his car, putting a flashlight in the bushes and like looking around
Mm.
because he's super scared. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of where the episode ends, and we have Joey and Dawson sitting in bed watching the news, and they say they've caught the lady killer, and it's the guy that was talking to Joey at the liquor store.
Yeah.
Oh, scary! And they just look at each other
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, how creepy!" So just a fun little kind of callback thing to end the episode on a bit of a creepy scare.
Well, and it turns out that the one who was calling Jen the
Oh
whole time as
yes,
well was Cliff,
yes,
pretending to be scary
yeah.
because he
He thought
thought
she would
that's
like
what
that.
she liked.
Dawson told him that she likes to be scared and she would think it was fun, and so he
Yeah.
wanted to do something creative. So he was the one calling her and leaving the creepy notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Great episode. Really, really great
Yeah.
episode. Maybe my favorite episode of the
The
season,
season?
to be honest with you.
Really?
Maybe it's
Okay.
because it played into the horror, it played into the
Okay.
time
Yeah.
of year we're
This would be
heading into.
yeah, this would be my second.
Um,
Um, I think the detention is always my
the
favorite of the whole
detention
season.
episode
Yeah.
was a good episode, it was.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, this follow-up episode, Beauty Contest, I think is a great
Yeah.
episode as well, admittedly. Very, very furthering the Joey Dawson situation, but it's also a very
Yes.
pacey episode. A very, very pacey
Yes.
episode.
A very fun
Not in
episode for
terms
him.
of the quickness of it, but in terms of the character of Pacey being the actual lead of this episode, and I enjoy that.
Yes, he had some really fun moments. I also do like that, Joey does refer to his haircut as a Caesar haircut.
Because it is.
Yes, yes, but I like that somebody actually says it. Um, so a synopsis for episode 12, a beauty contest. Jen convinces Joey to enter a beauty competition to win money for college, while Pacey decides to enter to win money for his own apartment. While Dawson covers the competition with his mother's assistance, Jen begins to regret her breakup with Dawson.
I do not consider Dawson and Jen in this episode, to be honest with you. It seemed there's no real continuation of their dynamic that we didn't get in the scare episode. I
Yeah.
don't think there's regret there. There's potential feelings for Joey on Dawson's part there that are a little bit furthered over the course of this episode, because this episode is about Joey and it is about Pacey. I like that we get more. You've been promising a bit more of Pacey's home life for quite a while. We do
Yeah.
get a little bit more of an explanation as to really how horrible that is from him
Yes, and
in this
we'll meet his
episode.
dad really treating him terribly and things like that going forward. It's really heartbreaking. Um, but yeah, so we do get this little insight into his home life. His father's kind of berating him for them going off to Providence with Billy, failing
Yes.
a class and kind of just calling him this useless nothing. So he's just like, I want to get out of there, I want to get my own place. And so Dawson kind of jokingly brings up him maybe entering the competition and he kind of thinks about it. And
What is it? The
so
Miss Cape Side, whatever, or Miss
yes, this
Miss
Miss Windjammer
Windjammer.
pageant. Yes, and, Dawson in
Beauty
the beginning
pageants go away with them, and by the way, I'd
yes,
just like to point that out.
yes, um, but, in the beginning of the episode, Dawson's actually imploring Jen to enter because he's like, "Well, you're so beautiful, you could enter the competition," and da 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 da
Mm.
da. So he's talking up Jen's beauty, doing this also in front of Joey, so it's just kind of like, Joey having to hear this kinda nonsense again, and then,
You know what?
um
He never quite reads the situation properly, does he? But
no, he doesn't, and Pacey
what I
kind of
think
calling out the awkward vibe between the 2 of them and really just telling him to let
yeah,
it go, because
he
Dawson
should do.
even here, Dawson is like, I think something could happen, of us getting back together, so Dawson even kind of acknowledges at the beginning, maybe the potential of wanting to get back with Jen, just at this beginning part of the episode, and then at this point, Pacey's, like, telling him, "No, let it go, like, just give it up."
You know what I did find though, and I found quite interesting, was Dawson in these 2 episodes that we have today didn't feel anywhere close as insufferable to me as he has in the past. Like, maybe it's just
Because you got
he
less of him.
maybe it's because we got less of him, maybe it's because he himself isn't really the focus,
Forefront, yeah.
and at the forefront, but, these potential lingering feelings for Jen, but also realization for Joey, I think it's
Mhm.
probably the realization of Joey that makes me go, okay, he might actually have a bit more sense. And he's not over talking. Yeah, okay, his pranks last in the scare episode are elaborate, but
Yeah.
that's that's fun. It's not annoying, is it? It's not
Yeah.
like, you can't wait for him to stop doing it like he has sometimes in the past episodes. We just
Yeah.
want him to shut up and stop. I don't really feel that way in these couple of episodes. And I certainly don't feel that way in this beauty contest episode, because I think, especially by the end, obviously, it's Joey who ends up entering the beauty contest on the advice of Jen.
And Jen kind of being a
Um,
coach for her as well. And
yeah.
so, yes, it's really interesting when Dawson sees the 2 of them at the pageant, he's like, "Oh, so you took my advice after all and decided to enter," and Jen's like, "No, not me," and he's like, "Well, then who?" And when he finds out it's Joey, he kind of laughs at her and he's just like,
Yeah, it's a little bit
"You?"
annoying at that point,
Yeah.
admittedly.
And he's like, "You, like, I didn't think this was your thing," like, and so, obviously she kind of takes offense to that, that he doesn't find her, pretty enough to be in a beauty pageant. It's obviously him just knowing that, Joey was never like that girly kind of type of person, that,
I mean,
beauty
she
pageants
is
weren't, it was very much against type for her,
yes,
and
she's
that's where he's
fundamentally
coming from.
against the
Yes.
idea of them.
Yes, and that's where he's coming from with that criticism, but obviously she's already feeling super vulnerable doing this in the first place, so his words, fall on very sensitive ears, so she very much
Yeah.
takes it kind of the wrong way. But his delivery also wasn't kind of great because it did kind of, I could get how it could feel like he was just straight up laughing at her for doing this. Um, and then Pacey, he's starting this big kerfuffle trying to enter, and there's no specific rules saying he can't. So
Yeah.
ultimately, they do let him enter the competition. So we see, scenes of Dawson interviewing the different contestants, and he interviews Joey, and he's asking her all of these questions about, where would you want to go after, once you're done with high school, and she talks about like, or like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And she talks about going on like these grand adventures and going to these big far off places, and he's like, kind of, it's a revelation for him because he, when Joey talks about getting out of this town, he expects, "Oh, you're just gonna go to Boston maybe for college. I thought
Yeah.
that's what you meant by get out of this town. I didn't expect you to have these grander ideas for yourself." So
Well, she
he's,
needs the escape. We get that from
yeah,
her anyway, and this is just a confirmation of it. It's not a little escape. It is this leave this terrible place and where everybody looks down on me
yeah,
completely and leave it way, way behind. Don't
way,
just go an
yes.
hour down the road, you know?
Yeah. So this is Dawson kind of learning about a side of Joey that he maybe really never saw or thought to ask about, because yeah, I mean, Dawson's always kind of making it about him. So it would stand to reason that as Joey has grown older, he hasn't really taken the time to pay attention to that growth. He's just still seeing her, like Joey has said several times, he just sees me as a little girl with like dirt on her knees and one braid falling out and that whole kind of thing.
Yeah.
He hasn't allowed himself to see her as a woman or see her as growing up just like him. So when she is kind of telling him things about her dreams that maybe he really didn't know about, he has to realize that he never, he is almost seeing her for the first time, in this whole situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it really does set his mind ticking
Yeah, it's
and
in that
you know
direction and really thinking about things that he never really allowed himself to think about before.
and when Joey obviously ends up doing pretty well in the
Yeah.
beauty contest, uh, singing this kind of beautiful song really, really surprisingly well for everybody. Surprisingly
Yeah.
well. He
Yeah.
is very, very taken aback by this, and you see a little bit, the
Yeah, well,
sparkle starts in his eyes.
even seeing her in the evening gown competition and Joey in
Yeah,
this fancy dress with makeup. And I love even kind of, Gail, as she's like local news celebrity. She's one of the judges, and she's watching this little girl that she's seen grow up her whole life. So I love that they kind of shoot to Gail in these like sweet little moments of pride for Joey as well, because she's seeing her kind of blossom into this beautiful young woman, and Dawson
yeah,
noticing it as well. So when she comes out for the evening gown competition, he's kind of like in awe. And then when she sings that song, and it's a very much a song that relates to their relationship. They've played
yeah,
a lot of these, I think, the episode, the dance scene, or the dance episode when, Joey sees Jen and Dawson dancing,
yeah,
on the dock, and they're playing that song, "You Don't Know Me," very much about a friend who loves a friend, but they don't notice them kind of thing.
yeah,
And so this song, this Les Misérables song that she's singing is very
mm,
much like that, this one-sided love story. And so she keeps kind of shooting these looks at Dawson when she's singing it, and he's just kind of, in awe of her in this moment, and she's really singing these true feelings, because all of every word of this song is what she kind of feels for Dawson, that she loves him and he, you know, but only on her own, she can love him because he will never see her that way. So she's still in the mindset that he will never truly see her the way that she wants him to, kind of thing. So I like that the song plays into, her feelings. Obviously a
She is
purposeful choice.
She is, yes, but it is still a very much a confidence boost, very much a blossoming for Joey, and I
Yeah.
think where they obviously end up, it's Dawson telling her that he kind of fully sees her for the first time after
Wow.
what she's just done, and well, I just like how that is how the episode or their relationship within this episode closes and where this
Yeah.
their relationship in this episode ends at. I enjoy that because I enjoy I'm team Joey constantly.
Yes.
So I enjoy that she is left in this episode in a much more or in a higher sense of self-esteem than we've kind of ever seen her in. I
Yeah.
enjoy that. I just
Yes, but I like her also kind of questioning this, attention that Dawson's giving her. At
Oh,
the
yeah,
end,
definitely.
yeah, so at the end, it's kind of before the last question that they ask, and she overhears this snooty girl who ends up kind of having this whole little back and forth with Pacey the whole episode. Like,
Yeah.
she was somebody who maybe, like, they kind of imply that she went to elementary school with them, so that's how she knows them, and then, she went off to some fancy boarding school, and she's back to do this contest. She overhears this girl kind of gossiping about her, talking about her dad's in prison and her daughter just had a baby with her, a black boyfriend, and she'll go around telling everyone her sad sack story, and that if she wins, that'll be the only reason why, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then, goes into the final question about like what would you tell the youth of today, kind of thing, and she really goes into this beautiful answer about just um don't, be treat people like as you wanna be treated, and like,
Yeah.
just be a good person, um, and don't lose, that sensibility to be a good person, kind of thing, and don't judge people, um, you know, kind of walk a mile in their shoes and give people the benefit of the doubt, kind of thing. So she gives this really
Yeah.
beautiful answer.
She's
Um
wise, and this is why I
Yes,
like her. She's always the voice of reason every
yes.
single time.
Yes, and so then we kind of go and see 3rd place ends up being the snooty girl who was talking crap
Yeah.
about her, and then Joey ends up getting 2nd place, and, so, um, the kinda competition ends, so she doesn't win, but by the end of the night, she's walking with Dawson, and he actually, like, takes her hand.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of the first, like, inklings of, like, feelings, and they're walking together, and he's just can't take his eyes off her, and she's feeling, like, super special because this is all she's ever wanted, and, he takes his coat off, and he gives it to her, and, she even tells him, like, she's like, "I wanted you to kind of look at me this way for so long," and he ends up kinda saying the wrong thing and makes, him kind of being attracted to her in this moment, he makes it kind of about the physical aspect of her, how she looks. And
Yes, he
so then
does.
she immediately clocks it as, I don't want you to look at me this way because of this lipstick and this hairspray. I want you to look at, I don't want you to see me as you see Jen. You know,
Yeah.
I want you to see me as the girl I've always been and feel the way, and feel something for me as me. So I
Yeah.
like that she questions him only feeling this way because he's just never seen her in this vein before. And so
Basically.
I like that, yeah, because of course, these shows have to kind of fabricate these films or fabricate these situations to prolong your will they, won't they couple from being together. But this feels
Yeah.
like a genuine reason that she would question, like, "You're only attracted to me because you see me in this pretty dress and this pretty makeup, and you've never seen me like that before. It's the physical thing, and I don't want you to look at me and talk to me this way and hold my hand because you're attracted to me physically. I want you to see Joey and love me as Joey and have feelings for me as Joey that I've always been. So I
Yeah.
like that there's some questioning on her end, that she's not just blindly accepting these affections from him just because she, loves him and wants to be with him. She's not blindly accepting that. She's questioning the sincerity of it, or if it's coming in the right kind of under the right kind of circumstances.
Absolutely, it's the reasonable way
Yeah.
of thinking. I don't think it still takes anything away from the fact that she ends the episode feeling pretty good about herself, and
Yeah.
like I said, it's basically one big emotional setup episode for what I
Yeah.
have to assume we're going to get in the finale uh, of season one,
Yeah.
which will be a Discovering Dawson's Creek episode on its own, by the way.
Yes,
We're
the
going
big
to treat
finale,
the
season 1. Yeah,
finales as
a big
episodes on their own
special
because they're
episode.
finales, and that's the point of a
Yes,
finale. It's the most important thing in this kind of TV is the
yes.
finale of each season.
Season 1 finale, yeah, it was a big deal. Um,
Um, but all really on the Joey side of things felt like the setup to what I have to assume is going to happen in the finale, and I won't say it out loud because
okay,
it might
okay,
not, but what I have
okay,
to assume is going to happen.
okay.
On the Pacey front of this
Yes,
episode, though, it's it's much more kind of entertaining
yeah,
and kind of showy,
story.
way less emotional and all that
Oh,
sort of
yeah,
stuff.
yes,
Even though
yeah,
he's doing it for emotional reasons to the point of he needs to get out, he needs to free himself.
yes,
It is
but he also
much
gets
sorry, yes, go
oh,
ahead.
no, no, but he also gets just emotional in the fact that he realizes that they're not really taking him seriously,
Oh, yeah.
and so he does get genuinely, like, frustrated and upset that,
No, yeah, well, that's the point, I'm making. It's not kind of introspectively, romantically emotional. It's this kind of good cause level of emotion. I'm doing
yeah,
this to break boundaries and things like that. And why can't I do this? I should be able to do this if I
yeah,
want. And he does treat it like that. And it's interesting that it brings up that kind of, you know, break the gender barrier
yeah,
element in 1998 or whenever Dawson's Creek
yes,
season one was.
1988, yes.
Um, it's interesting that it brings that up, obviously. Kevin
Yeah.
Williamson putting intelligent conversation into teen shows. It's great that that's in there. It's great that he does that. And Pacey's very, very front and center in this whole episode. He's exuding all this
Yeah, the
confidence. He gives this
crowd loves
ridiculous
him.
William Wallace speech that
Well, yes, I
I
mean,
despise.
well, the crowd loves him, he's entertaining everybody, he's getting a lot of oohs and ahs, and his answers are great, and he's super funny. He kinda sneaks over to Gail and, like, asks how he's doing, and she's telling him, "Oh my gosh, the audience loves you. I mean, you have no chance of winning, but, you're really entertaining," and he's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "There's no way these snooty-falooty people are gonna let a guy win this competition."
Yeah,
And so then, Pacey really thought he had a chance. So he feels completely written off and he gets really kind of frustrated. So he had this whole magical act planned, but once he realizes that he doesn't have a chance anyway and they're just kind of going to blow him off because he's a guy, he decides to do this kind of ridiculous William Wallace speech
yes.
to kind of, stick it to the man type thing, which I may have had
Was
this
Braveheart still relevant 3 years after
I mean,
Braveheart?
maybe a little bit. Um, but I may have had this speech burned on a
Oh.
CD.
Oh god. Oh dear.
Yeah, I had a CD of Joey singing on my own, and it was, like, literally, like, the clip from the episode and, like, him doing the speech. So I have a CD somewhere that has
It's a
those
somewhat
2 things.
questionable Scottish accent Joshua
Yes,
Jackson's putting on as well.
but, I mean, it's for the entertainment factor. He's making
It
people
is.
laugh, and he's really doing it. He's literally doing it just to say kind of "F you" to these
Oh
people
yeah.
who aren't gonna give him a chance. So, and then by the end of the night, him and the kind of snooty girl have been having this antagonist back and forth the whole time. And then they do have this kind of honest moment together that, like, his family rejects him, and her family even rejects her. Like, she went home for the holidays, she said, from boarding school, and everybody was gone, nobody was even there. All of her siblings are like these overachievers, and she can't even win this rink-a-dink small town pageant.
Yeah.
So despite them kind of being from different walks of life, they find this kind of common ground and have a good laugh together by the end. So that's
It
kind
can
of,
often happen, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter where
yes,
you come
and it
from.
plays into kind of Joey's answer to the question about, not judging people, which she was really
Yeah.
pointedly even saying that to that girl, because this was
Yeah.
literally right after that girl was kind of gossiping about her.
Do you know what
Um,
I like about this fancy boarding school girl as well? Is that when Pacey sees her, she's like, I forget her name entirely,
yeah.
but it's one of those situations where Pacey goes, "Oh, look who it is! It's I'm gonna call her Anna. It's Anna of the Ridgemont Henderson Annas, that kind of stuff."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Not
like
that
the
not that
famous,
that makes any sense what I've just said
yes,
at
but the
all,
kind
but
of well-known, well-to-do family,
yeah.
lineage kind of thing. Um, so yeah, that's kind of Pacey's fun storyline throughout the episode. Um, Also just kind of touching back on the dock moment after, when uh Joey and Dawson are kind of walking together and he takes her hand. Jen is there. She, like, is gonna go out there to
Jenny's
say
there.
something to Dawson, and even, like, when Joey's about to sing, she is about to kinda tell Dawson that she maybe wants to get back together, but before
Bad
she can
timing,
say it,
Jen.
yes, but before she can say it, Joey starts singing, and then he's just kind of transfixed. And
Yeah.
so Jen is witness to the 2 of them holding hands, and she kind of just sadly skulks off. So there's
It's
this
her own
setup.
fault. I've no
Yes,
sympathy for Jen.
definitely. Like, she had Dawson, she had no reason to break. As soon as Billy showed up, she let that kind of cloud her whole situation. Dawson did have his not so great moments, but kind of
Definitely.
better than the guys that she seemingly was with in New York, right? So,
With better
um,
intentions than Billy.
yes, intentions, definitely. Um, so Jen is kind of witness to this moment. So there's definitely some setup for the finale where Jen is going to try to be getting Dawson back. Um, while Dawson's kind of going to be probably caught in the middle,
Mm.
still kind of thinking about these feelings of Joey, and
And
Joey still
unfortunately,
not
Pacey's
believing.
left on his own again.
Yeah, so I fear, if I recall, Pacey does not have a ton to do in the finale, but,
They do him dirty. They've done him dirty the entire thing. It has been 3 people and Pacey. That's
well,
what the
Pacey,
that's what the show
season
should be
2,
called.
we no more Caesar. Season 2, we open with Pacey with frosted tips,
Oh god.
um,
Oh god.
and we introduce a new character who will be very important in Pacey's life, jumping
Hmm.
into season 2, so it'll be interesting there. But, yeah, we are kind of really putting the points of our triangle together in this episode.
No, we very much are. 2
Yes.
great episodes, though. I really do. I
Yeah.
found thematically the beauty contest episode to work
Mhm.
well as well. And I think some of the episodes, while they've been, you know, continuations of the story, they've felt almost one and the same. Like, can I differentiate between a couple of the episodes?
Yeah,
No,
I
but
can see that,
these
yeah.
two will stand out
And yeah.
for what they do and for what's in them and for how they, present what they're trying to
Yeah, I
present.
mean, we have our very generic will they, won't they kind of teen couple thing, but when you add some really interesting nuances with the characters and dynamics and really honest conversations,
Yeah.
it makes it feel a little bit more elevated and interesting than
And
just your
unique
average.
situations
Yes,
as well.
yes, yes, definitely. So I like that, uh they add a little bit of kind of character interest and kind of elevate the conversations that the characters have amongst something that could feel very generic.
Yeah, it's great. These
Yay.
two really, really were great episodes, and I
Yay.
can't wait for the season 1 finale of Dawson's Creek, discovering Dawson's Creek. Great to be back here
Yeah.
today. Do subscribe and ding your notification bell on this YouTube channel for more of this and all the other fun stuff we have here. Of course, we've had things scrolling down at the bottom of the
Yes.
screen all episode long. Subscribe to the main It's a Wonderful Podcast feed on all major podcast platforms for all the fun shows over there that we have, of course, alluded to on this episode as well in the film class discussion.
Yes.
And if you want to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, we can't do what we do without that support. We love you forever. Those links are down below, as well as the social media. Of course, you can find us on the app formerly known as Twitter. And It's a Wonderful One. Find me there at the Purple Dom with a 3 instead of the E in the because, Janine.
3 is a magic number.
Well, it certainly is for Dawson, because there's Dawson, there's Joey, and there's Jen, and that's 3.
Yes.
And Pacey doesn't count because he's not romantically attached to Pacey, unless he is at some point, and we're going to get that. Interesting, if that is the case, I must say, although somehow I feel like we're not going to get that somehow. But it would be a fun twist.
I mean,
It would be a fun twist.
definitely.
It definitely would be. Janine, all. Oh, no. What else do I have to say? Instagram and TikTok at the Purple Dot. Janine,
Yes.
all your Dawson-y Dawsons is where.
You can find me at _Janine on Twitter, Janine Devine on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. If you want to get any merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search It's a Wonderful Podcast on teespring.com. And if you want to purchase any of my art in print form, you can find that at my Big Cartel shop, g9design.bigcartel.com.
You know what I should have said then? I should have said all your Joshua Jackson adoration is where, because my God, is he front and center of a lot of things at the moment as well.
Yes.
He's all over the
Dr.
place. I can't get
Odyssey,
rid of him.
Show, looking handsome. Everyone's talking about how good he's aging. Yeah.
Can't get rid of him, can you? He still looks like
Never.
Jack Quaid. He does. He just
More
don't. They look the
handsome,
same.
more
They're
handsome
the same
Jack Quaid.
person. He's just 20 years older than Jack Quaid.
Okay.
15 years older than Jack. How old's Joshua Jackson?
40.
Mid-40s?
Yeah, I think he's like
Yeah.
45. Yeah.
Maybe 15 years older than Jack Quaid then, won't he? I think Jack Quaid's probably early 30s.
Yeah.
I would guess. There we go. They do look like the same person anyway. Janine, there is, of course, only one thing left to do. There's no real Dawson whining today, so I don't know what impression to have. Maybe because we were treated to a scare episode, some sort of spooky impression might be in the cards today.
Oh my gosh. 3, 2, 1.
Bye.